Hey, everybody, it's Ted Padromo, and I'm here with my friend David Garfinkel. We're going to talk copywriting and headlines today.
Hey,
Welcome,
Ted.
David.
Thank you.
So I never learned how you got into copywriting. How did you get into this wonderful field?
You know, I had a career as a journalist and ended up in San Francisco as the San Francisco bureau chief for McGraw-Hill World News, and I was good at it, but it wasn't fun. It wasn't right for me, and so I just left and I was just wandering around. Ran into this newsletter by a guy named Gary Halbert, no longer with us, but he was quite the guy at the time. And I was stunned. I didn't know what he was doing. I kept reading it over and over and ended up bits and pieces, put the puzzle pieces together, went to a seminar, and this is what I want to do. And it was just a natural fit for me.
Yeah, Gary had an influence on a lot of people.
He
Definitely. I
did.
never got to meet him personally, but gosh, everything I read, he was amazing.
Yeah, I met him. I met him a couple times. Never really got to know him. I'm good friends with John Carlton, who was his partner for a while, so I've heard lots of stories, and his sons too, Bond and Kevin. But, he's
Yeah,
a wild man, but incredible guy, and he brought a lot of us into copywriting.
yeah. So how long have you been doing copywriting? It's been a while now.
30 years.
Yeah, I was going to say it's
Long time.
yeah. So I've known of you probably 15 years. I've seen you on the internet. We finally met a few years ago.
We did.
Yeah.
We met in San Francisco at a mastermind, business
Yeah.
mastermind. Yeah.
Carlton's, yeah. Hopefully we'll be starting to do it in person again. That's exciting.
Maybe we hope so. I know a lot of us would like it to happen. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So let's talk some headlines. What are
Sure.
headlines for people that don't understand anything about copywriting and why they're important?
Okay. So if you go to a web page, there's some big words across the top, and those are your headline. Um, Really, it comes from newspapers and magazines. It's the first words of what you're going to read, and they're very important because from a marketing and an advertising point of view, um, when we measure, when we test things, headlines are responsible for 80 to 90% of how well our ad does. So they're extremely important.
And today we're skimming on our phones or our iPads, and we see 100 articles, and maybe one will make us stop. Otherwise, we scroll right by.
Right. And if you're writing a post on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, your first sentence is sort of like your headline. It's got to grab someone's attention and make them want to read more.
Yeah. And you taught me this, actually, I think, from one of your blog posts or podcasts. The purpose of your headline is to get them to read the next line of the sales letter or article or whatever your email subject lines or headlines.
Yeah. And the purpose of the first sentence is to get them to read the second sentence. I mean, if you have a call to action at the end, there's no point in even having it if people don't read all the way to the end. So you want to keep people constant. I call it eyeball glue, right? You want to get their eyeballs glued to whatever you're writing.
Right. I was just having a debate with someone. I did a video the other day, and I didn't let people skip ahead to the end. He goes, I want to see what your offer is at the end, and you made me watch the whole video. I'm like, yeah, if you didn't watch the whole video, you wouldn't get the context of the offer.
That's right. That's right. I had the same thing. I did on my Copywriters podcast, we did a fun episode yesterday on Mad Men, the TV show, and some good ideas for entrepreneurs in copywriting. And somebody put a comment up, said, this thing is full of spoilers. Could you please just summarize the main points? No.
Right. Give me the Reader's Digest version, please.
Right. The Reader's Digest version is you need to watch the whole thing.
Right. So is there a structure you use for headlines? Is there like different types of headlines?
Yeah, I mean, uh, there there are long headlines and short headlines, and for people who are really into copywriting, they've seen some of these extremely long, provocative, bravado-filled headlines. Um, those are not always the best idea. And then on a lot of more traditional ads you might see in a newspaper magazine, the really short headlines. The rule of thumb I use is the more general and broad, broad broad audience you're going to, generally the shorter your headline, the more specific. And specific, interestingly, takes a couple of forms. One is a technical market, and the other is what I call the maniac market. When you have something like golfers, for example, if you're selling a golf product. I don't know if you play golf. I don't. But golfers are maniacs. They are, really focused on all the detail. I'll give you a couple of examples from guitar. If you were going to have a general guitar course, you could use a headline like this: "Learn to play guitar like Stevie Ray Vaughan," and that'd kind of do it. Now, for composers who are trying to create a specific sound, there's an instrument called Fab 4 that's made by East West, and what they've done is they've created virtual electronic instruments to make you sound like the Beatles. Of course, you still have to know how to write like the Beatles,
Right.
how to play like the Beatles, but that's another thing. And so this is I looked on their website because I have Fab 4. It's a really cool instrument. It's got a lot of different instruments in it, and their headline is just Fab 4, which I think is okay. I don't know. I don't think it's a great headline, but their first sentence, which is effectively their headline, let me read it to you. Fab 4 is a virtual instrument inspired by the sounds of the Beatles, using the same kind of period instruments and authentic, rare EMI recording equipment the Beatles used to create their music. Very long and detailed, but for the composer who wants to have a Beatles-like sound, that's just what he needs to get involved in the copy. Probably a bit of a maniac and a technical headline there.
Yeah, so you basically have to know your audience and like what the Eugene Schwartz stages of awareness, like where they are and how much do they know about guitars.
Right, and how specifically are they looking for a different or better or more authentic solution? Yeah. And then you need to let them know right away, hey, we've got something like that for you.
Right. Yeah, the deeper they're in, like golfers, you're right. They'll buy anything to make their game better. They don't care what the price is, but
they don't care what the price is, but they want you to tell them a story that's going to be very intricate and detailed and specific.
Yeah. And it's so easy to hit the ball 50 yards further with our whatever.
That's right. It's always easier when you buy something.
Yes, exactly. Makes me taller and thinner and hair on my head.
That's right. It'll bring my hair back too and make it black again. Yeah.
So what else about headlines? What can you share? Like, what's clickbait? People are always talking, what's clickbait?
Well, clickbait is something that it kind of raises your adrenaline level. It creates interest, and it might work for news. It's really dangerous to use this kind of stuff when you're selling things for a couple of reasons. It's usually exaggerated and deceptive, the one ring Prince Charles doesn't want you to know about, and he has a tarnished ring that he can't get clean, so he doesn't wear it. Who cares? But it got you to the page. The other thing is, if you make some kind of these days, especially because of social media, and because of increased scrutiny from state attorneys general and the Federal Trade Commission, and because of that we're in a very customer-driven world with lots of comments, like think on Amazon, all the comments, or Yelp or anything.
Yeah.
You don't want to make promises that, oh, Melinda Stalling says, I will take taller and thinner. Won't we all, Melinda? Yeah, what you need to do with a headline is not make it clickbaity, but make it intriguing enough, and yet something you can prove, something that's true. You know, I've got 10 magic words that I used to talk about, and if you can get one or more of these in your headline and make a promise to solve a specific problem that people are having and are aware of and haven't been able to find a solution for, you can write a really good headline. And the words are you, free, new, announcing, introducing. Those are really, the last three are all pretty much versions of the same thing. They mean this is news, right? Mm-hmm. Magic, quick, guaranteed, how to, and easy.
See, we're all looking for easy and fast, and you do it for me.
Done for you, yes.
Right.
That has the word you in there, right?
Yeah. A lot of times I hear clickbait, you click on something, you say, oh, I'm interested in that. Especially the news. They have those, deceptive things like Prince Charles' ring or whatever. And then you read the story and it's like, well, that's really boring. Or on the news, everything is like breaking news. There's a bear in San Anselmo last week. That was breaking news. And then they have like 5 stories that keep coming up. The story about the bear in San Anselmo. And then the story is actually like 10 seconds long. But they hype it up.
So what works for the news, we need to adapt it for our marketing. Because I agree with you, the news is overhyped and they're doing all of these teases. There's a subtler way to do it. If you do it well, it can work really well. I've got 3 things. I've got 10 magic words I'm going to tell you about. The first 2 are you and free. Now stick with me because I'll tell you about the other 8 in just a minute. But first, and so you create what's called an open loop, and it puts the person on a little bit on the edge of their mental seat that way. You can't be as blatant or as crude as they are in the news. And if there's anyone here from TV news watching, sorry guys, but it's blatant and crude. And I still watch it. So what does that say about me? I don't know.
No, it's true. Every story is like breaking news. Like, oh my God, just tell me the news and stop teasing me. The news could be a lot more news, but they have so many teasers. That's probably a third of the news show now.
It is. Well, of course, they're competing with the internet. They're competing with TMZ. And, they're competing with your live stream. So they've got a lot of things to worry about. They really need to work hard.
So one of the things people are always talking about in copywriting, I've done copywriting courses for years, long copy versus short copy. Like some of those sales letters, you read them and they go on for 30 pages. Do those still work these days?
Oh, yeah, they do. Again, it depends on your market, and it depends on what you're selling them, and it depends on how long you're going to sell it. For example, let's take this Apple Magic Mouse. Okay, everyone knows what it is. At least everyone who has a Mac or an iMac knows what it is. So about the best thing you can do to sell that is to sell it at a discount, because people already know about it. But let's say some of those geniuses in Silicon Valley developed some kind of brain-operated mouse. So you can just think, mouse up, mouse over, right? You're going to need to explain that to me in order for me to buy it. You're probably going to need to give me some idea of how it works, how easy it is to use, what kind of tests did it, they used to make it, who were the people who invented it, what's their track record. That could end up being 1 page, 2 page, 4 pages, 6 pages. and again, a lot of it has to do with stages of awareness and how new and well established a product is. A lot of the really long sales letters are for information products, whether they're entrepreneurial information products or publishers, newsletters, big established corporate publishers. And, they are competing with a lot of other newsletters that people have already seen.
Mm-hmm.
So they really need to prove themselves and explain how they're different.
So they're kind of talk about what they're offering, the benefits, and then try to overcome objections depending on the price point, something like that.
Yeah, and what sets it apart from the millions of other newsletters are out there. And if they have a guru, what's this guru done, and what would they have done for you lately if you already had the newsletter? There are a lot of, I did a lot of work for Agora Financial, and it was really interesting how in some of the best sales letters they would build up the credibility of their experts, and they had some, top people, ex Wall Street superstars and best-selling authors, So sometimes it doesn't take that much, but depending on how well-known the person is. But credentialing a person when you're really buying a person's wisdom or knowledge is very important.
Yeah, it's getting crowded out there, no matter what we do. Like, I spoke in Denver in January of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2.3 million coaches on LinkedIn. In
Wow.
December of 2020, there was 6 million coaches, and now there's 6.5 million. It's like, you really need to differentiate yourself, and that's kind of what it is, what copywriting does, right? Helps people.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, there's a subset of copywriting called branding or positioning or unique selling. I mean, there are a million ways to call it, and that's the particular thing where you set yourself apart. And often it's not like you want to be the best choice for everyone on the planet. You want to be the best choice for the kind of people who already like you. So sometimes it's a really good idea just to talk to your customers, talk to your clients, and say, what have you noticed about working with me that you really like and sets you apart, sets me apart. If you were to recommend me to a friend, what would you say? And then when you can boil that down into a short phrase and prove it with testimonials or with credentials or with a unique life story, or maybe you have a unique method that you use for coaching, all those things help.
Yeah, it helps you stand out from the crowd.
Yes.
I do that on LinkedIn. After I work with a client, I'll write them a recommendation and say, I worked with David on this project, and this is what it was like working with David. And then they get prompted to write me a recommendation. So
it's a good plan. Good way to do it.
It works really well. So tell me, what's one of your favorite headlines you ever wrote?
Oh, that I overwrote. Gosh. There's a guy out in San Ramon. I'm not sure I can remember the exact words now. I wish you told me that question in advance. I got to look it up.
I gotcha.
You got me.
Or one of your favorite headlines ever you wrote or read? I sent out an email today and talked about, they laughed when I sat down at the piano, that classic one.
That's a great headline. I love David Ogilvy's classic headline for the Rolls Royce. It says, at 60 miles an hour, the loudest noise you'll hear in this Rolls Royce is the ticking of the clock in the dashboard.
Yeah.
So he went to the factory once and it sold a lot of cars, and one of the engineers came up to him and said, "We got to do something about that damn clock."
First world problems. Great. So, how do people get in touch with you? And I know you've written quite a few books. And
Yeah. So a couple of my books on Amazon. I think the best book if someone's just getting started in copywriting is called Breakthrough Copywriting. And then if you really like headlines, I also have another book. It's also on Amazon called Advertising Headlines That Make You Rich. You can find me on Facebook, and if you want to have sales letter critiqued, I'm very expensive and I'm very good, and I've helped people make millions of dollars. So if you're ready to, I don't know if you'll make millions of dollars, but if you're willing to improve the performance of your copy, you can go to garfinkelcoaching.com and sign up for a critique.
Cool. And you do coaching, or you just do critiques now?
I coach more advanced business owners and copywriters. I have a year-long coaching program.
Mm-hmm.
And so I only take a small number of people in that. And it's usually people who've been through a few others and they haven't quite gotten what they're looking for. And I can usually give them what they're looking
Learning
for.
copywriting takes years. It's definitely an art and a skill.
It does. It does. It took me years. You know, I had gotten a job in San Francisco that maybe only 3 or 4 people have ever held, because the first one held it for 40 years before I got it. The San Francisco bureau chief. It was kind of a plum position, and I was kind of lucky, or good. I'd rather be lucky than good, though. But after copywriting, and then I learned about sales. I even co-authored a book. I don't think it's in print anymore. It was called Effective Sales Management, and took sales training, learned how to sell my services. And then I started learning how to write copy. It took me 5 or 6 years. And I was a professional writer and not the world's greatest salesperson, but a skilled one.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the tools and techniques I've developed can speed up the process. But, you know, I actually came up with a quote I wanted to share with you. It's from the great 7th century BC Greek poet Archilochus. And he says, "We don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training."
Oh.
Now, for those of you who say, no, actually a Navy SEAL came up with that, I don't think there were Navy SEALs back then. And it is true that the SEALs use this as part of their culture, because training's pretty important for them. Like, I think we could say it's a matter of life and death,
Right.
quite literally. And their training is probably among the best in the world. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know it's very, very good. So, but yeah. Anyway, thought I'd share that.
Cool. Any parting thoughts?
I would say that even if you don't want to become a professional copywriter, these days, with all of the content marketing, all of the social media, especially LinkedIn, and all the content people are sharing, it's really good to at least learn some of the basics of copywriting. Even when you're just writing a post, you don't need to be, hard closing like Alex Baldwin and Glenn Ross. You can just put subtle hints and just learn to see things from a customer's point of view, put benefits in what you're saying, keep people interested. Oh, also, my Copywriters podcast, which you were a return guest on about a week ago, and they're all up on copywriterspodcast.com. So if you guys want to learn how to use LinkedIn better, go to copywriterspodcast.com and scroll down one, and you'll find Ted with the latest on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that was great. I had fun with that. Yeah, I agree with you. You got to keep honing your skills and learning how to do copywriting, even if it's just introduction. You need to be able to communicate with people.
You really do, because these days, just even presenting good information in a very clear way is not enough. We all seem to be jazzed a little bit and looking for the next stimulation. And copywriting will create stimulating. The copywriting mindset will help you create stimulating content, which will attract people to you and help you get more clients.
And you learn what influences people. Like you said, the 10 words and what'll keep people reading to get to your offer.
Absolutely. Influence. I think those are my parting thoughts. Influence.
Cool. Well, thank you, David. This has been fun.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was. Yep.
Grab a cup of coffee together now that we're allowed to go out.
Yeah, I want to see you. You're only across the bridge, right?
Yeah.
You're up in Marin. So
Yep.
I'm here in San Francisco. So we will get together.
Sounds good.
Let's make it a date with the exact date to be determined.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll
Okay,
talk
thanks.
soon.
Bye.